Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Your Town Matters. I'm joined today by the Mayor of the Town of St. George, John Detorakis. Thank you for being here today, John.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm glad to be back.
Now, I do want to get into a lengthy discussion later in the show about amalgamation, as well as Councillor Sam Rubin's speech at the end of the regular June council meeting, which for those watching at home, it's in the final minutes of the last council meeting. You can find it on CHCO's YouTube page or the Town of St. George's YouTube page, so please be sure to watch it. But let's start off by talking about some recent events in St. George. Firstly, the Pride March for Charlotte County Pride. It was just this past weekend, and it was the biggest turnout I've ever been to in terms of a Charlotte County Pride March, and also the first time the march was hosted in the Town of St. George. Were you pleased with how it went?
Well, it was an amazing event, and I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased because I believe that St. George is leading Charlotte County with regards to this movement of inclusion, which is long overdue. We had a fantastic turnaround of students from all high schools in Charlotte County. We had the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Detorakis was there. The MLA, Kathy Bocuse, was there. I mean, I personally have a history knowing from my daughters the pressure that individuals face in high school, bullying and all the other things that they are coming out of our disability to engage and include people. So seeing the turnaround and seeing the speech that came is quite emotional. And I hope that this becomes a tradition, not a one-of-a-kind event that happened. I hope that St. George has started a movement there.
Mm-hmm. And it was neat to see as well, not just high school students, but also a local church involved. It was an emotional day.
Yes, Reverend Marianne Langley was there, and she's a wonderful person. I'm glad that she was there too, yes.
And in the spirit of inclusion, yes. Filipino Month was something that was just marked in St. George.
Yes,
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was an amazing event. It happened at the community center, Macadamic, and it was my first time that I was exposed to the culture. I mean, the Filipino community has made a big contribution to our economy. I mean, they're excellent workers and that they have helped build our aquaculture industry. But they bring a cultural element in their dances and songs that came out in that event, and I was amazed actually. First time that I saw their dances and their songs, and I hope that this becomes a recurrent event. Mm-hmm. I mean, Filipino Month is every June, so I hope Father Suplido from the Catholic Church there keeps the spirit up and brings it back to the Macadamic place, regardless of the name of the entity that may be next year in place.
And also on the topic of inclusion, St. George was picked as the provincial launch site of Disability Awareness Week. So that was also another June event and a big one. Yes. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well,
or late May, I should say.
St. George is perhaps most engaged than other places around in with the community living organization, which aims to integrate people with disabilities and use their abilities. And we do employ people from the community living in our municipal operations, like distributing mail or bringing mail back and forth. So I was glad that the province chose St. George to launch the week for disability awareness, and I was glad to see the turnaround of people who came from almost, I mean, actually they came from all over the province to actually join the event. And it was a very, very important event of inclusion, and I'm glad that they picked up St. George. And of course, speaking about the positive things and the joyful things that have happened the last month or this month, I want to actually say that we had the official inauguration of our splash pad, which it's a great facility, both as a tourist attraction. People who travel the highway can stop and stay in the Granny Town hotel and motel, and have their kids play there. But also the local kids, our youth, it's a great place to hang around on a hot summer day.
Mm-hmm. I will say I was on my way to Blacks Harbor Town Council last week, and
yes.
I saw we drove right by the splash pad, and we saw just from the highway so many people using it. It was really neat.
No, Councillor Coulton was there, and she actually could not hold herself, and she just became running there and became all over wet from all this water splashing around. It was a nice inauguration event that we had last week.
Now the next big summertime, I guess, events that come to St. George will be Family Fun Days, and I understand that you will be hosting the biggest firework display in the province on July 23rd, and that's all part of Family Fun Days. But can you speak a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, it's a whole week filled with fun. That's why it's kind of Family Fun Days. I mean, it's a week. It starts July 18 and goes all the way to July 24th. And the best that I can suggest, because there are too many events to actually mention in our interview today, is I want people to go to our website, where we list what's happening every day in there. But since you mentioned the fireworks, which are sponsored by Coca-Cola Culture, and it's I believe it's perhaps the biggest fireworks show in Atlantic Canada. So I expect a lot of people to show up for the show. And that happens on July 23rd, as you said. Another thing which is close in my heart from my last year's involvement with the festival was that we are bringing back the St. John String Quartet on an event that's going to happen at Macadamic on July 19. And that's a free event, but we are asking people if they want, they can make a donation, and all the money goes to the Charlotte County Cancer Society. It's going to be a great week. I mean, go to our website and make sure that you know what's happening and come.
Definitely. I even recommend to people that live outside of St. George, there's an outdoor screening of Encanto and things that I think will be an attraction for communities far and wide across Southwest New Brunswick.
Absolutely. I mean, kids in general, fireworks are very popular, and so that's kind of the highlight. But we have so many musical events. We have things that kids love, like how they call this bouncy castles,
yep.
and we had them last year, but this year we are also bringing them back, and we have roast beef dinners, the Masonic Lodge, lots of food trucks. So it's going to be a fun week. Mm-hmm. If you miss it, you're going to miss it. So make sure you come.
Can you give us a little update too as well, which I'm sure people are excited about, the coastal trails. But there is a public meeting coming up. I believe it's with Quad and B, but because of these trail extensions, that they're not necessarily accessible to four-wheel vehicles anymore. That the four-wheelers are looking for another path to go down instead of a coastal trail.
The Quad and B proposal is quite complex.
Okay.
I mean, it comes before amalgamation, where we have 6 councillors who are keen to actually make sure that the community engage in the proposal, and we hear from the community what they think about what Quad and B is proposing. Essentially, what Quad and B wants is to have a change in our bylaw that will allow the members of that association with their vehicles to actually travel through the main street and then turn on Riverview Avenue. And I believe their actual goal is to be able to actually cross over the river and continue towards, I guess, this area here. So what we are doing and what we plan to do before we do anything about bylaws, etc., is to actually have an open house where we're going to invite Quad and B to actually make a presentation to the people who will actually be affected.
Okay.
The people who are living on Main Street, who have houses on Main Street or Riverview Avenue, and they will see a change when this thing is allowed. So I expect this thing to happen quite soon, and based on the feedback that we get from the people who are affected, we'll proceed.
Okay. Another big topic nationally, internationally, is the housing crisis, obviously.
Oh, yes.
But St. George's, again, being proactive in how you're tackling it. Can
Yeah,
you
know
talk
something, that's one of my pet peeves, because St. George is doing well. St. George, I mean, I mentioned, I think in a previous meeting, that we are leading Charlotte County in development. I said, oh, but you have the aquaculture industry. Well, yes, we are proud to have the aquaculture industry. Don't bring that thing as a reason that we should not be proud for our growth. I mean, we have a strong industrial basis growth, and we have a significant housing growth that some people in Fredericton have failed to actually capture. We have a committed 8-unit apartment being committed and is going to start soon. We have the Hillside subdivision, which involves 30 single house dwellings. Okay, I believe this is probably the biggest subdivision that's happening right now in Charlotte County. 30 houses is a big project, and we are trying to push it as fast as we can through the Service Commission, so the developer can get the green light and start building. We have an application for industrial park expansion in the works, and we are doing water infrastructure, which is badly needed on Riverview Avenue, because 20 or 30 years ago we got a bad batch of cast iron piping for the water, so we have failures happening. So being prudent operators of the water system, we decided to actually upgrade this section so they will not have failures, because failures, cost money to fix, and they stop the traffic. So yes, housing is happening in St. George. Housing that is driven by private money, private enterprise money, and I guess it follows because we have a growing industry, and a growing industry requires a growing housing development, and it's happening.
Mm-hmm. And so the 8 units on Carlton Street?
Yes.
And is it a building that exists now?
No.
Okay.
It's a new development.
Okay.
It's a new development, and I just had a chat with our CAO just before I came here, and he confirmed that this is something that is going ahead.
Wow.
Okay.
And with amalgamation about to happen, I do understand that there's a time capsule being built to sort of mark last year of St. George as a town, as an incorporated town. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going in it and where it will be?
I will start by saying that before the idea of the capsule, we had a first in St. George of commemorating St. George Day. And we hope that will start a tradition of commemorating St. George Day in the years to come, regardless if it's called whatever it's called, East Charlotte or whatever. I mean, we have been there since 17-something. We have 120 years of incorporated life in our belt. So keep honoring St. George on St. George Day. Is a new tradition that we hope we started. Even the mayor made a special proclamation for that day, which I believe is a collector's item now. So out of this idea and the fact that effective December 31st at 24, 23, 59, this 120-year municipality will stop to exist as a municipality. We were thinking of actually making a small memorial / time capsule, something that perhaps going to have some of the granite of the area, because we used to be called Granite Town in our first days, and something that will actually capture what has happened with the last cycle of this council as it closed the books. And we are still working on the design. But I'm very excited because, to me, I said that we may have to actually make a proclamation and have a covenant that's going to be binding to eternity, that this capsule will not be open until the resurrection of St. George. So this is something that we put forward for the next generations to actually consider.
So the resurrection of St. George as an incorporated.
Well, you know something. Now you're moving me into the subject of amalgamation. We have been forced into a configuration that we have not chosen. I mean, both the mayor of Blacks Harbor, myself, and many of the LSs around said, "Wow, why?" Because a lot of concerns exist, but not any specific benefits were put to actually look forward. And the concerns exist because we have not been told what's going to happen with a lot of things that are going to upset us. Like, for example, what's going to happen with the Service Commission? How many more services? Who's going to pay for them? What is going to happen with the review of the roads in 3 or 4 years? Who is going to pay for this new deal that's going to come? We know that's going to come. They just put it ahead a few years, perhaps after the next provincial election, but it's going to come. So there is a concern about, for example, the unconditional grants. There is about $500,000 which right now Blacks Harbor and St. George get from the government. Is the thing is going to be continued to be given, or the taxpayers are going to foot the bill for this $500,000? The other big thing, which as a St. George, as a resident of a town, a municipality, have, and I'm really worried, is that effective January 1st next year, under the wisdom of our government, will no longer be a town. We're going to be dissolved into a rural community. Now, rural communities in general don't have sewage, they don't have a water system, water towers, they don't have sidewalks, they don't have to pay, for example, for medical clinics. Like St. George right now is paying for a medical clinic just to keep doctors there, because we have a serious problem with doctors, and much more serious problem than the amalgamation. But as we go into a rural community model which does not require for the rural community to actually deal with these things, what's going to happen with this? Like, why someone from Beaver Harbor is going to be paying for a clinic in St. George? He will probably go to Blacks Harbor, where there is a medical center there. So yeah, these are issues which I hope, as we move towards a new municipal election, people who will step forward will communicate a vision about how they see this new game to be developing. And what I'm hoping, and coming back to the resurrection that you mentioned, what I'm hoping is that 4 years from now, or 6 years from now, when this bill of goods, which we have been forced to buy, basically, is going to come clear to the people about what service they're getting, what they're paying for them. that there may be a time for review. I mean, amendments in legislation are happening. We have Bill 82 who made that configuration, but if there is a problem with what they propose, and this thing is not something that the local government can tolerate, that maybe 4 years from now there ought to be some sort of a referral of the matter to the voters, and have perhaps a plebiscite about what configuration we want. Something that this government has avoided like the plague, to actually engage the people and ask them, what do you think about that? Have a proper vote. I mean, even on things like the name of the new community, we had a kind of a mix of Facebook and website clicks. People can click on a website, I don't know how many times, and we end up with a name. Okay, very, very close between I think it was Coastal Charlotte and East Charlotte or Eastern Charlotte, and we ended up with a name. There has not been any proper reaching to the people and have like a vote on important things. Like, for example, do we need to get these 6 communities into one or maybe 2 that physically fit, like Blacks Harbor, which is already a municipality, and St. George, which is already a municipality, amalgamating. Amalgamation means essentially a municipality growing and engaging its boundaries around it. This is not happening right now. So what I'm hoping is that 4 or 5 years from now, when all the facts about what this thing means are going to come out, and people are going to see the bill and they're going to see what service they get, they can say, hey, wait a minute, we did not ask for that. So.
Well, and there's a very real level right now that I think maybe the citizens, the residents might not feel it as strongly now, but the people who are feeling it are council and staff as well, who've been asked to reapply for their jobs, which I don't think a lot of people at home realize yet.
Absolutely. I give big credit to our CAO, Jason Godet, who maintains an impeccable professionalism and focus on the job while his job is on the line in 5 months. It's a very stressful time for the staff. We actually felt it because a lot of staff have left from St. George and they moved to Alberta, because exactly there is uncertainty about, they say we guarantee jobs, but you don't guarantee what they're going to be doing. So people don't go only for a paycheck. They have a job, they like it, or they are used to it, and now all these things up in the air. So so that is a very good point about the stress that this thing has caused to our staff. And the council is, I guess obviously is quite upset. And you mentioned at the very beginning the speech of Sam Rubin. I mean, I don't know if you could hear in the background Alexa Detorakis saying here, because it was something that the whole council felt very strongly about listening to the words of Sam. The Rubin family is how can I say it? It's part of the St. George history. I mean, mayors and councillors, Rubens have been there since, for the last 120 years. I mean, when I look at the chain, there are a couple of mentions of the Rubens in it. So he actually put very well. He said, that our local government, and not only this council, but all the councils before us, despite their tensions and they actually manage well. I mean, we have a debt, which we actually know what we pay for that debt. We have a new water tower, and we have a water system, and we have sewer pumps that we maintain. So we actually manage our municipal infrastructure well, and we are very proud of it. And I think Sam put it well that we are moving into an area that we really don't know what's going to happen. So I will leave it there. I cannot repeat what Sam said. The best thing is actually go to the YouTube or go to your thing and listen to what Sam said.
Two highlights that stand out for me. One, he really highlighted the work of council to turn Macadavic Center back into a community center as a evidence of how well you work together. Yes. And other points that he brought up that I found interesting is that Sam's on the transition committee. And it was the first time he spoke out openly about saying he's not for amalgamation, but the thing that I hadn't thought about is that he's been advised that the town should not acquire any new debt. So it therefore makes making any decisions with the 1 year, less than 1 year left that you have really quite difficult. So how is that affecting council?
Well, let me put it that way. I have the misfortune of being in the same group that Sam was, and I felt the same frustration about why I'm there. Essentially, this is a case on which we are going around the table, we don't get any answers, but at the end of the day say, let's vote. But we don't know, or let's vote. Don't mind that you don't know, just vote. So Sam expressed his frustration, and I just stayed quiet. But I feel as frustrated as him by being member of that consultation group. I don't know what label would have been given from the province. But yes, the issue of the Macadamic. Two things. The issue of the Macadamic is a very important landmark in the life of this council, because it was a community center which have been allowed to be used for another purpose. And that restrained our ability to use it as a community center. So essentially we fought a very intense, to some extent ugly battle to get it back. I mean, there have been a lot of tension, a lot of name calling, but we felt that we needed a community center, not only for St. George, because the events that we do in St. George can get people from Lake Utopia or Back Bay or Blacks Harbor or Penfield. I mean, it's a community center, okay? And this council brought it back. And if you look at the history of what has happening over the last, 6-9 months since we got it back, you will see how much is used. If you go to our town office and you look the next month, it's almost booked every day with something. I mean, from vaccinations that we had before to also all sorts of events. Okay, so the fact that Sam brought up this thing of the Macadamic is totally fitting. It's one of the things that we accomplished. On the second thing, let's not forget that effective when the government told us you're out of business, our ability to actually plan ahead, to actually serve our long-term goals of the town, to focus on long-term growth, it was just eviscerated. Debt, or the ability to actually make investments, because I mean we are not spending on a credit card to buy shoes. I mean, we are making municipal investments. So our ability to do investments in our municipality was completely eviscerated. And Sam hit it well. And the other thing that hit well, and I know this is what, because Sam is the person of money. I mean, he wants to actually make sure that we spend the money the right way. And I give him credit for that. I had some fights with him because he's too focused on money, but he is very accountable.
Well, we're out of time today, but I hope to continue this conversation with you next month as we move forward with amalgamation, whether we like it or not. Thank you for being here today, John.
Thank you very much, Vicki, for giving me the opportunity.
My guest today has been Mayor John Detorakis of the town of St. George. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.